Hello and welcome to the Storytelling with Puck podcast. We will, as always, start with a story.
It was an average Thursday, and Stephen was perturbed. He didn't know what was quite gnawing at him, but there was something there, something that was just starting to build the tension within. He knew that he could defeat it, but what he had to do first was identify it. And so he went to the place that he always goes to process the madness within. He went to the Lego store. And so sitting at the table, finding all of the red blocks to signify his rage within, he built the tower of terror. And slowly but surely, as he started to build it, the clarity in his mind became a picture of the thing that needed to be defeated. That very thing that he thought he had defeated, but 3 days ago had reared its ugly head again. And so, as per his process, he smashed that tower of blocks, leaving a absolute wake of destruction around the store. But of course, in a polite and friendly way, because he didn't want to not be able to come back. And so he left. His quest confirmed. The mission was simple. All he had to do was the washing up. Because he knew that if he didn't, there would be trouble in paradise. And paradise with trouble is no longer paradise. It is just trouble dice. And trouble dice is no place for a man to live. And so with the wise words of the world echoing in his ears, a happy wife is a happy life. He placed those weapons on his hands. Some might even call them washing up gloves. And he defeated the enemy once again, knowing that soon it could rear its head again, but his process was sound, his solution was simple, and he always made sure a happy wife meant a happy life.
I don't want to go to trouble dice, so I'm just going to say thank you, Rory. We'll dig into the story a little bit more in a second, being careful about what we say. But it was brilliant. Before we do any of that, let's have a quick introduction to the podcast.
You're listening to Storytelling with Puck, the podcast designed to show the power of stories in life and in business. Stories connect us on a deeper level, which is why we'll be sharing, chatting about, and feeling the impact they have on every one of us. Your host, Stefano, is the founder of Puck Creations, and we work with your business to define a clear, consistent, relevant brand which stands out from the crowd. We use that brand to create content that makes your audience think, feel, and take action. Visit puckcreations.com to find out more.
But before you do that, let's have a bit of a brain jam and play our way into the serious business of creativity and innovation with our spectacular guest. You've just heard his wonderful, amusing story, Rory Berry. Rory, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me. So my name is Rory. I'm a life executive coach, corporate trainer, play advocate, and general mischief maker, because life is far too serious to be serious all the time.
I feel like you've practiced that.
I've said it once or twice before in my time.
I like it, and I loved your opening story as well. I'm picturing the smashing of the Lego in the store, but I love the added element of being polite.
Polite smashing is key.
How often can you get away with smashing up Lego politely and going back?
It really depends on the level of relationship that you have with the store staff. And No, in all seriousness, I think that sometimes being able to smash things that you've created like that is really important, because then you can deconstruct something to reconstruct it so that you get the joy of the construction, but it's also tearing stuff away. Like we sometimes have to tear away layers of the mischief and rubbish that we put around ourselves in the world. It's the similar kind of metaphor, right? That is rubbish. It needs to go. And so we can bash that away, just like we can bash away the Lego that we're building.
So it's an emotional decluttering of sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. In Roaring Berry world, it's called deturtling. It's my version of the backpack analogy, because if you think about the backpack thing that we have, we've all got our stuff we're supposed to carry. That's comfy, that's cool. But then what we do is we add extra things and we carry stuff we shouldn't. And then like a turtle or a tortoise that's got on its back, when our backpack gets too heavy, we end up like this. Help me. I'm on. I can't survive anymore. And so we have to declutter or deturtle our backpack.
I may have to, for the listeners' pleasure, get that clip and put it onto a video and put it out there. I did quite enjoy the arms in the air. But for anyone who can't see the video, I should probably describe the flailing action that Rory was doing as he was describing the turtle. Maybe it's just amusing for me, but I'm sure that others will enjoy it too. So I think we've already got a bit of a sense of the fact that you like to use a bit of comedy and you like to use play and you like to have fun with the things that you're doing. And you work with businesses quite a lot. And by working with businesses and saying that you're going to go into a business to play, how does that go down? And then how does it help them?
Now, obviously, you have to sometimes use the words that are more known in the circles that you're going to play in until they understand what you mean by play. So generally, you'll talk about team building, culture, communication, all of those sort of buzzwords, so to speak. But what it actually means is we do play. I spent 10 years as a performing artist, 8 of which I did improvised theatre. And so I use improv in a ton of the training and coaching and work that I do. And when you are forced to play, but have an agenda in a scene, you suddenly realize at the end of it, I just learned negotiation skills. I just suddenly learned sales skills because I wanted you to buy this weird thing at this weird bazaar that we were at when we were on the planet blah, 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 blah. And I was trying to sell you tribidibidis. And that makes no sense in the moment. But when you look backwards, you suddenly realize what you've done. And I think that a lot of the time there's this weird thing that happens where somewhere along the way we flick the I'm an adult, I must be grown up, I must be boring switch. And so we shut down play, which is almost criminal in my eyes, because what it means is we've stopped being 100% of who we are. And then hustle culture tells you to go at 150%. Now, if you're not even 100% and you're trying to charge at 150%, I'm not an accountant by any shape or form, but that maths doesn't work.
It seems like basic maths. I think you're right. It definitely doesn't click in. I'm also not an accountant. Maybe we should get an accountant on the next episode to see if they can do the calculations. But
I'd be interested in the results. That's for sure.
Yeah. But interestingly, and this is what I like. Actually, you make a really serious point here. And I believe that's also what you're doing with your playing. You're making serious points through the medium of play. I think there's quite a lot of research that's gone into how children learn and how they best understand things. And often it's through the medium of playing. It's through play when they're not having to think about the fact that they're being taught, when they're not having to be forced into, you must learn this today to pass an exam by the end of the week. But instead it's just, go have fun with this toy, which secretly is teaching you maths. It works. It works a lot. Maybe if they put on that voice, it would work less well. But it works. It works a lot better. So it is interesting that when we become adults, that seems to disappear. We seem to forget how powerful it can be to learn and also to work. What are your thoughts on playing for productivity?
I think that, no, obviously banter, there's a line.
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify, for full disclaimer purposes, I'm not encouraging bad behavior or chop nutting, as I would call it. But I think that when you can play in a healthy way, in an encouraging way, in an environment where it's not about winning, it's about playing, you build different levels of relationship. You build a culture of assistance. You build a encouragement of the humanity in your building and or your organization. And I mean, I one of my best examples of this is actually summer camp in the States, because I went to the States and taught at a summer camp for 4 years. It was rough. I did end the summer, went summer South Africa, summer North Carolina, summer South Africa, summer North Carolina. Wow. But you push through for the team. And our camp director, the first 2 years that I was there, Captain Lloyd, honestly changed my life with the way he lived his life. He was the biggest kid at camp, and he was 60 plus, hurtling around, hooting and hollering and causing mischief, but like healthy mischief, where he'd like walk up to someone and be like, "Oh, there you are." And people are like, "What do you mean?" He'd be like, "I don't know, but there you are." And then he'd charge off and he'd chuckle like he was 10, and he'd had the funniest joke. And we would just do crazy like magic in inverted commas in the mess hall. And like anyone older than about 8 knew that this was clearly just him goofing. But because the 6 and 7-year-olds would like all in on the magic, 1,400 people in the mess hall would build the tension and build the environment and build the excitement and like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And then when the magic trick, inverted commas, got finished, like people lost it with excitement, like, wow, wow, can you believe it? It's amazing. It's the magic trick. Wow. And it just created and bonded people on a different level so much faster. We had kids from like the inner city and no cash to like mega, like I could buy an island rich. And everyone was sort of barefoot in shorts, having a good time. No one gave a monkeys. And we just literally had the best time teaching them. And those kids grew and learned and changed and evolved into some of the most beautiful, wonderful hearts and minds to change the world because they were enabled to play in a safe environment. You translate that into the staff, and we were able to teach them that because we were living it. And that, for me, was one of the best examples of how it can work. Having then taken it into corporates, it just confirmed my theory and confirmed my thinking that it is absolutely a powerful and beautiful and wonderful thing to see people playing with no adult hat of, oh, I'm going to judge myself because I think I might look silly. Just like bin that, just play.
When you first then take that into the corporate environment, and when you first have a group of anywhere between 25 and maybe 75-year-old, very serious people sitting in front of you, ready for today's lesson, sir. How do you, I guess, inject the right level of energy without the cynicism that may come from, somebody coming in wearing a clown hat potentially? How do you get the input?
It's an incremental, slow grind. You first have to kind of create the atmosphere that gives permission to play. And so we start like at sort of level half, not even level 1 mischief. And that starts with like, I generally do a exercise called Tell Me a Lie, but it could be true. And so we go around the room and you have to tell us, you have to say something that could be true, but is possibly a lie. So it might actually be true, or it might actually be a lie. And so it's quite close to the truth. So it's not that creative, inverted commas. And then once that level, that round of like, that's kind of weird. Whoa, that's true. You just crunch barriers. once you just get the first people to play that game, then we do another layer of equal sort of mischief and happiness. And we pass a U around a circle, which is another improv icebreaker game that we play. And by the time you've sort of yelled "you purple fork" at someone by the end of that game, you've broken, like, you've shattered the ice, let alone breaking it. And then people are like, all right, he's a little nuts, but I'm having fun. And so let's crack on. And that's generally when we get into the really big stuff. But I also am very intentional about going, like, I'm from a performing arts background. Think of this as a rehearsal. Today's where we're going to potentially make mistakes so that we can get it right on the night, inverted commas. And when you give people that level of freedom, but also sort of, it's not hectically serious, like I can screw it up today and it'll be okay, then all of a sudden they are more likely to dive in. And the minute you bring in play, the most serious of serious, even if it takes them a little bit longer to sort of like unshackle, by the end of it, everyone is having fun and laughing and going, this is amazing, I love this, but I can't believe I haven't done this before. So it's just about the first couple of things, and then the floodgates generally go, and we just have fun.
Makes a lot of sense. So just to clarify, if I told you the story about the dragon that I had to eat when I was in Cambodia with the ice turtles, that's a bit too that's a bit too on the nose. It's too truthful.
Yes, just a smidgen. And if it wasn't, it was the ice turtles that put it too close to accurate. So
okay, no, that's fair enough. I'll remember that if we ever do a session, then I'll keep that in mind, and I'll make sure that I'm going a bit further away from the truth. But that's good to know.
Dragon, I'm totally fine with. It's the ice turtles it gives away every time.
Yeah, I know. You see them everywhere. They're too common. Everyone sees that. Everyone knows what they're about.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I love this. I love this idea of just filling the room with energy, filling the room with ideas and creativity, and bringing in the kinds of people who sometimes feel like this might be the worst possible idea in the world because all I want to do is focus because I have to get things done. And as you said, the hustle culture that exists, breaking free of that, it's incredible. Now, I know that as part of all of this, something that you do is combined with play, and I think these are often very well combined, is you use stories throughout all of this. How does that come into the play environment and to the work environment and to being able to teach people?
The thing about stories is they can be close enough to the truth to resonate, but distanced enough from you to not make it personal. Mm-hmm. So if I want somebody to go somewhere or try something and they're a bit nervous, all right, tell me a story about somebody that did that. Oh, and so people can take that step aside and step away from themselves, inverted commas, and engage with it. Also, the beautiful thing about stories is it's, depending on if it's audio or written, it's the theater of the mind as well.
Yeah.
And so we could both read, I don't know, The Lord of the Rings. Let's assume we haven't seen the movie. And I mean, who hasn't seen The Lord of the Rings? Side note. Watch The Lord of the Rings. But we could both read that story and create a different environment in our head. Now, it might look fairly similar, but the beauty of that is it's personal, it's our interpretation of it, but generally it also is, there's a resonance there is an inspiration there is a connection there. And if you think about it, storytelling was the way that knowledge was passed and entertainment happened in times gone by. Mm-hmm. Like you had like the storyteller of the people that would tell the tales, tell the lore, tell the things, to pass it through the generations around the campfires. And even today, like, that still happens, but on a smaller scale, in like the scouting movements and things like that. You go and you have a campfire, and then people tell stories about things that happened on the day, and it's knowledge transfer. But it's kind of like you're saying, like, it's a bit sort of like sneaky, not like like, you're going to learn something now. Am I? No, I'm not. I'm going to tell you a story. Hey, I learned something. Yeah, that was.
I love the evil laugh. I feel like both of us are failing a little bit with our evil laughs. It might be the giveaway, but
yes, it could be.
But at the same time, yes, there is a lot of power. I agree in being able to slide lessons in, and it's also. I mean, to speak about it seriously for a second. The sneakiness of it doesn't really exist. Everyone knows what you're doing. It's not like you're trying to, push ideas onto people that they might not like. But it's just more fun. People are like, okay, I'm happy to listen to the story. Oh yeah, I just learned something. I know what he did there, but brilliant. It doesn't matter. I'm happy to have learned something. I didn't want the boring throw me loads of facts and tell me to write it down and make notes. And
that's really the beauty of it. I think I see what you did there. Like, we generally, unless it's like a mega twist, who doesn't love a mega twist? Like, unless it is a mega twist, you generally know what's going to happen. But because of the way it's being delivered, aka the medium of story, you are happier for the most part to continue on the journey, because you're like, yep, absolutely, well done you. Versus, stop lecturing me, boring, the screensaver's on, I'm not even here.
Yeah, I like the idea of maybe I've been watching too much Black Mirror, but I like the idea of being able to turn an actual screensaver onto your eyes when you get a bit bored, and just having something just dotting around, going like hitting the points and then bouncing off. But sorry, this is how my mind works. Going off.
Well, the fun part is, as a glasses wearer myself as well, we probably could invent something for glasses wearers to have screensavers.
Let's do that. Let's come up with that idea. With this whole conversation, though, what I'm getting, and I think our listeners will also get, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, is your performance arts background. Now, talking of Lord of the Rings, it seems like it's something precious to you. So why don't you? I wish the listeners could have seen you tap your nose there, because I was laughing for no reason otherwise. But why don't you tell us all a bit about how you initially realized that you wanted to perform, that you loved the idea of performing, and what happened to get you into improvisation in the first place? Where did it all start?
So I found the performance arts backwards, if that makes sense. I was at school and post school. I was actually sort of more in lighting and sound design and sort of the behind the scenes stuff. And then I went to summer camp and was dumped on stage in front of 1,400 people on a Sunday, because that's what they did to some of the counselors. And I was like, well, this is amazing, and had the best time. And others were like, this is a bit scary. Lots of people in the audience, many eyes staring. And so as a result of that, I went back to Cape Town when I was in one of my non-summer in America sessions, and just got an agent and just did some extra work just for giggles, because I thought, I don't mind being man with broom number 3. Turns out that I was not terrible at it. And so I kept getting cast into sort of more meatier roles. And one day I went to go, and as a result, I went to watch a lot of theatre, because I love theatre, because it is the most raw and beautiful thing, because what you are seeing will never be seen again.
Mm-hmm.
Because that moment, I mean, unless it's recorded, but like in terms of live theatre, even if it's a run, there will always be different nuances on different nights. So the night that you go, it is literally, it's your show. And so I went to an improv show, and I fell in love with improv when I saw somebody be a human Rubik's Cube at a party where they spoke gibberish.
Wow.
And I was like, I am done. I love this. I want in. And so I did the training course. I did the advanced training course with them. And then I auditioned and was lucky enough to be offered an opportunity to join their troupe of improvisers. And we got up to the most amazing amount of mischief. We did shows almost weekly. We did rehearsal almost weekly. And we did some festivals that we went to. My biggest and craziest bit of improv was a 13-hour improvised soap opera to raise funds for a charity where I was a half elf, like one does. And so we would have a 50-minute episode and then a 10-minute ad break at the end so that we could all rush off stage, throw food in our heads, dash to bathrooms if needed, etc. And then also go, right, what have we done with the plot? I have no idea. Because the beautiful thing about long form improv is it's story crafting like on steroids in the moment, because you can't just hunt a laugh in a 2-minute scene. Like you've got to you have to craft a narrative over the course of X hours and take people with you. And it is just amazing. It's one of the best life skill teaching lesson vehicles that I've ever come across, which is why I love it and why I use it and why I teach people about it. Because even this last year, because of my ability to view the world through improv eyes, I've been able to navigate it differently. I'm not going to say better or worse, just differently to many.
Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, for me, the big thing is one of the biggest tenets of improv. There's the yes and stuff, which a lot of people know of. But one of the things that people don't think about is you've got to be 100% present in the moment. You cannot even think one sentence ahead, because I'm going to stuff up the scene if I'm thinking about something and I'm not listening to you actively. So I have to be 100% present in the moment. Does that mean I have the ability to think ahead? Of course it does. It doesn't mean I'm like not a planner. But when you can live 100% present in the moment and find awe, wonder, joy, surprise, and delight in that time, despite what's going on around you, you're able to navigate things easier, faster, and have a faster bounce back in the Chumbawamba moments, as I call them. When we get knocked down, we can jump back up again a lot quicker and a lot easier. And therein lies some of the big magic. The other big thing is it's a shift from me to we. So if we're on stage in a scene together, it's my job to make you look good. And it's your job to make me look good.
I have to say, if we were on stage in a scene together, you would have a very difficult job. But but sorry, keep going.
You'll be surprised. I can teach you things. But the beautiful thing about that is you park your agenda, you park your ego. It's gone. And once again, it's back to being 100% present in that moment. And we are working together. It's us against the world, so to speak. And so when you can use that, especially the 100% present in the moment stuff, you can, on the roughest of rough days, still find awe, wonder, joy, surprise, and delight in the smallest thing. Be it like on the roughest of rough days, a lovely cuppa of something can be that moment of joy. A wander into, if you're lucky enough to have a garden, walk outside and see a bumblebee. I'm a big fan of the bumblebums. Love the bumble legends. And so like that can bring me a moment of joy. If I'm having a stressful thing or a heavy session I've come out of and I just need to decompress, walk outside, bumble friend. And I've just given that little bit of extra back into my tank versus removing from the tank.
That's brilliant. It very closely resembles. I'm a big fan of meditation. I do a lot of meditation, guided meditation, and the kind that people will picture as the more common versions of meditation, where you sit in a room silent and breathe. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. But it's interesting when people have asked me about meditation before, and they're like, I can't really do that. I can't sit in a room and just do nothing. I'm like, okay, that's fine, because all meditation is really about, to me, is everything you have just explained. I think that actually what you described with improv and what you've described with going out and seeing a bumble bum, as you call it, which I liked, is to me is a form of meditation. And I know that you often post on LinkedIn. I see it and I absolutely love just images of nature and beauty. And to you, that's also a form of meditation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how it all links together?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I call those the beats. So take a beat.
Okay. Let's do that. This is probably a good moment to remind you that you're listening to the playful, for serious reasons, Rory Berry. We've had a lot of fun with Lego and Office Play Chat already, but as we take a beat, we'll talk about what's coming up. Rory will share some more stories, including an inspirational piece about an extremely hard part of his life. Yet, we'll still laugh lots, we'll find out where Rory spends his time, and we'll have a story from Puck Creations. Now, before any of that, let's listen to a dear friend of the show who really gives her guests the power to speak. Jackie Goddard.
My creativity at its best, it's a real exploring. It's a surprising journey.
I think creativity is just
the antidote to insanity, and it's productive originality.
Surprising answers, inspiring stories, motivational, educational, inspirational. Wise words with Power to Speak the podcast. Find us on your favourite podcast platform or watch on YouTube at Power to Speak the podcast with me, Jackie Goddard.
And it comes back to the performing arts background of, if you think about in a scene, on a stage, or even in a film, when the actor stops talking, it doesn't stop. So they take a beat. Sometimes it's to remember their line, inside info there. Sometimes it's intentional. The beat is there to build nuance, but sometimes it's literally just to go and take a breath, take a beat. And so if you think about the fact that, coming briefly, circling back to the hustle culture stuff, where it's like, go, 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 go. Oh, you're tired. Keep going. Go, 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 go. There's no one saying, hey, why don't you just stop for a second, breathe? And so that's taking a beat. And when you see people saying, oh, I'm struggling to do X, Y, and Z, I'm so busy, blah, 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 blah. If I can break that with a 20-second video on LinkedIn, and because 20 seconds, people will engage long enough to be like, what is this? Oh, that was nice. I've given them a beat. Once it's sneaky, but I've given them that beat. But now people have got to the point where they're like, I need the beats from Rory, please. And so they've started to follow the hashtag take a beat on LinkedIn so that they can get them. Of course, that means I've also made a run for my own back. I have to keep producing them, but that's a side note, because it's really not that hard. Because if I'm having a beat out somewhere, I've generally got my phone, so it's a case of quick little video. Hey, share this with the world. Sometimes there's slow-mo, sometimes it's reverse, sometimes it's sky, sometimes it's cloud. It doesn't matter. What it matters to me is that people are just taking that beat to just have a quick breath and a quick reset to carry on.
That moment. I have to say, part of the way you described it there did sound a little bit like you were pushing drugs, but because of the type of drug it is, I'm kind of happy to go with it. It's a drug of kind of peace and tranquility without the nasty side effects. So I'm going to allow it.
Yeah. Is this the part where I'm allowed an evil laugh though?
Go. But it's genuinely wonderful that you do that, and I think you must know this already because you see all the comments and the likes and all of that kind of stuff, but it really does go down well with a lot of people, and especially during the working day. I think taking that beat is so important when you're stressed and you're pulling your hair out and you're wondering why your accounts aren't matching up and you're wondering why you can't think of the latest story or the latest blog post or whatever it is that you're doing. And then suddenly you stop for 20 seconds and then suddenly the idea comes. I know for me, not just the beat, but when I'm struggling with creativity, my go-to is to escape and to go for a walk in nature. Even sometimes if there's no nature around, I will literally stare out of a window just for 20 seconds, as you say, with your taking a beat, sometimes for a bit longer. I've done this in shared workspaces a few times, and I think people get a bit scared because I'm just there staring kind of not at anybody, past everyone, but motionless for maybe a minute or 2 minutes. And I think people wonder what on earth is going on. And I start getting looks and occasionally the odd, "Are you okay?" And, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Sorry, I'm just
lost in my own world."
Yeah, I'm just working. This is me working.
Yeah, but I think that's the real thing. People have this potential misconception through marketing and or whatever, that in order to be able to rest, recharge, refuel, you've got to be like, and now you need to block 30 minutes in your diary, and then you need to sort of put on incense, and you have to get the sounds of whales, and then you have to get special. No, you just need to stop and breathe. And that's why, like, if you can take 5 beats in the course of a day, it's potentially like a minute of your life. But you know what? Those 5 20-second things, also maths is hard. That's not a minute.
I wasn't going to mention
ladies and
it.
gentlemen, this is why I'm not an accountant, and why I pay one. But like 2 minutes. But those things just clumped together it's a literal moment in time. But what it does is, from a bigger picture of refueling, refilling, etc., there is so much more benefit than just that brief moment that you've given yourself. And that is the thing that people they buy into the rubbish of, "Oh, I can't stop. I've got to keep going." No, you have to stop to keep going.
I love that. You have to stop to keep going. That might become a mantra I share with other people, because it's a beautiful one. And talking of taking a beat, because I think we're going to get onto a slightly more serious subject that I wanted to ask you about. You've mentioned already you spent a lot of time going to camp, and you became a counsellor, and you supported lots of people, and that was where you gained a lot of your energy and your love for what you do now. But I know that whilst you were on one of these trips, you also, something really serious and sad happened at that time as well. I know that because you were kind enough to share it as a story with us on this year's Storytelling with Puck initiative. Now, I apologise because we've been having this very upbeat and fun conversation, but we did speak a little bit beforehand, and you said that you would be willing to share that story with our listeners. If it's okay, would you mind maybe giving it a go?
Yeah, sure. 3 little birds gave me strength. When I was at summer camp in the USA, my best mate there got diagnosed with cancer. It was aggressive, and the prognosis not great, but we still had hope. For just over a year, we had played touch rugby, taught climbing, taught outdoor education, bonded over silly stories, having both come from Cape Town and yet only managed to connect in North Carolina, of all places. Cancer won and took him away from us. It was rough, and I struggled at first to come to terms with it all. I distinctly remember the day I found out. I had to help a young man who was homesick process how he was feeling while dealing with this news myself. After helping him for an hour, I went and sat on the far end of the golf course alone and cried what felt like tears from deep within my soul. One of our connections was the music of Bob Marley, and so when I had to plan the memorial service for him at camp, we got permission to start the day with 3 little birds playing over the camp PA instead of our usual wake-up bugle. It was one of the hardest days of my life, but that song gave me the strength to stand in front of everyone who came to honor his journey through this life and celebrate the man and friend that he was.
Thank you for sharing that again. I know that can't be easy to read, and it's not an easy thing to think about. But the reason I wanted you to share it again is because I think it's a really important story for so many reasons. There's so many elements to it. The sad loss of your friend must have been devastating. I can only imagine.
It's one of the things that helped me realize that life was too short. He was 23.
23.
And so you just realize that, like, there's no time to faff about with the bollocks.
Yeah. Which is actually, and that leads on to what I was about to say, which is what the main reason I wanted you to read the story, because that's actually something I took from it, was the fact that you had this connection through the music, that you had this connection through your hometown, the fact that actually in the hardest of times, that's what got you through.
Yeah.
And then I have taken note from, we've only met today, but from our encounters on LinkedIn and the things that I've seen, this spirit of living life to its fullest. And you did just say it then, and I wanted to ask you about that. Has that been inspired from that moment, or at least partially inspired from that moment?
It was definitely part of it. Uniquely, strangely, and kind of sadly, I'm able to say before I was 26, I had lost 5 friends. And wow. you come to realize that there's a lot of stuff in the world that actually is rubbish, even though we get sold it as gospel truth and all-seeing knowledge.
Yeah.
And you just kind of go, yeah, I'm not buying into that. Sorry, I'm out. And one of the things I actually say to my clients is embrace your inner Marmite. Now, if you're not a Marmite, aware it's a spread that is a very polarizing thing. You are either yes or no to Marmite. There is no fence sitting on the Marmite scale.
Except for me, I am the one person in the world who is somewhere on the fence. I kind of like there with Marmite. But anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, you aside. The thing about it is you're either all in or I'm not in at all. And when you do the same with yourself, and you can, with humility and grace and that fine line between confidence and arrogance not breached, be unapologetically 100% you, so that you can bring what you have to bring to the world, you are going to repel what I call the energy vampires in your life, the people that are going to just drain out of you, that aren't actually going to help your world. And you're going to attract your, I'm going to use the word that we all use, tribe. But you know what? It's the word that people use, and so we use it. But when you've got the people that get you and or resonate with you and or want to be around you, then you can have an impact in whatever small size it is in the world. It's one of our favorite stories to tell at camp was about, it's the starfish on a beach story, where short version of the story, it's a sort of tons of starfish are washed up on the shore, and they're all obviously dying, and it's not great. And there's a kid that's throwing in a starfish at a time, and an adult walks past and goes, "What are you doing? That's not going to make any difference." And as the kid picks up and throws in the next starfish, they kind of go, "Well, it is for this one." Woof, and off it goes. And I think that, yes, we would all love to change the world. Obviously we would, in whatever way it is. But the thing is, you can change someone's world. And sometimes that's your gig. And so if the stuff that I've gone through enables me to change one person's world for the better, then it was worth it, as mental as that sounds. Because that's just the way I look at the world now. It's my job now to bring light, love, and laughter into the world as much as I can, because there's enough people doing miserable stuff, and nobody needs to add to that side of the equation.
That's just brilliant, to be honest. I think it's so sad that you've had to go through all of that. So sad that you've had to go through all of that. But your outlook, partly because of it, and I guess there's probably something that, driven you to that beforehand as well, and your whole personality. I think we sometimes put maybe a lot of emphasis on individual events, whereas actually there's a whole build-up that's brought you to where you are. But for me, you sharing those stories and then the personality that shines through off the back of them, that we can all see, we can all hear in this podcast, we can all be part of when you're sharing the things that you do on social media and when you're connecting with people with the work that you do. I think knowing that story and knowing that this is the way you are now and combining those two facts is genuinely inspirational. And I know that's a massively overused word, so I try not to use it too much. If you listen back, you will hear that I really don't use it that much. But it's genuinely inspirational. It's an inspiration for me, and I think that maybe actually it's probably a good time to think about finding out where you can potentially inspire other people. So if people would like to play, if people would like to have the fun that you can inject and to get a sense of the way that actually they can also have that joyful, playful feeling that really does help them in business, where can they find you?
So I've got my website, so roaringberry.com, roaring like a lion, berry like strawberry.com. If you want to drop me an email, it's brainjam@roaringberry.com. That's the best way to get hold of me, because why have an info at when you can have brain jam at?
I love that. I love brain jam at. Today is not the day, but one day I will do a whole podcast about why having boring emails is no good for your business. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find Roaring Berry on, there's a Facebook page, as well as I'm dabbling in the Insta of Grams. And so you can find me there as well. And yeah, reach out. Let's have a brain jam and let's see what I can do to help you or the business that you work in.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I can imagine that so many people are going to want to have a brain jam after this conversation, because as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. It has been inspirational, and I've just loved talking to you, Rory. I should call you Roaring, I guess. But
I respond to both.
Now, this is going to be really cheeky, but we're about to finish off the podcast with a story from Storytelling with Puck.
Ooh.
But I've just been thinking about movies, and you may not be able to do this. I've not asked you this before. We should explain to all of our listeners that this is completely unprepared, and I can see the look of slight amusement and also slight horror on your face. But you are an improv person, so let's just go for it. Your name's Rory Berry. Can you give us a roar to end the podcast?
Yes, I can. Inspired by the lions from Africa.
And with that, I'd like to give each and every one of you the permission to roar too. Let it all out, like our playful guest, Rory Berry, did. Thank you so much, Rory. Once that's all over with, I hope you feel at least a little more powerful. Don't forget, listen to Jackie Goddard's wonderful podcast, Power to Speak. The guests and the stories on there are magical. Talking of making magic with words, here's a story from Puck Creations. In a land far, far away, there lived a noble creature we know today as Frenetica. Frenetica had only true and good thoughts. Every morning at which is known to us as 4 a.m., Frenetica would awake. Their legs would take them to their shed, where they would use their 5 hands to lift weights whilst rotating on their 3 legs. Of course, they would rotate in the opposite direction too, so not to become dizzy. With their exercise complete, they would enjoy a fat bar, which is of great importance for energy throughout the day, as we know. They would wash themselves in dirt, and finally they would float underneath their desk to start work. By the time came around, that's roughly 8 a.m. to us, Frenetica would have completed between 7,000 and 10,000 tasks without stopping. Frenetica was a marvel. They broke records and everybody wanted to know about Frenetica's methods as they partied until or midnight to you and I. Sadly, Frenetica died of exhaustion just last week, and now busyness is the new hero of the land we call hustle. You've just been listening to the Storytelling with Puck podcast. We'll be back very soon, so make sure you subscribe and catch up on any of the episodes you've missed.